I'm Mary Fitch, Executive Director for the chapter, and I'm just delighted to welcome you to the 2022 annual meeting. As it says on the screen before us, an annual meeting is required by the governing documents of the chapter. These documents require a report from the Executive Committee, the Treasurer, and the Executive Director. As you can see from our agenda on the next slide, we're going to start with those three reports. Last year's President, Christopher Takis, will be giving the Executive Committee report. Our Treasurer, Will Tays, will follow with the Treasurer's report, and perhaps not surprisingly, I will be giving the Executive Director's report. Then we will welcome this year's new inductees into the Corporate Affiliate Hall of Fame, and finally, we'll hear from some of our 20 committees. Each committee has 2 minutes to talk about what they want to do in 2022, and that is a whole lot to accomplish in an hour. So settle in, grab a snack, and let's start with the report of the Executive Committee. If you have any questions, I think you need to put them in the Q&A, and we will answer them as we're going forward. So Christopher, take it away.
Thank you very much, Mary. So you can go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to start just recapping some of the language that really drives us as a board of directors and sets the trajectory for us on the executive committee. Our mission is to empower our members, our profession and community to advance the value of architecture and design in Washington, D.C. The next slide, our vision is that Washington, D.C. will continue to lead the nation in creating a more resilient future for us here at home and abroad. Next slide. There are a few big, writ large values that drive our work. We affirm that design matters, that equity matters, and that climate change matters. And in 2021, we were challenged in some expected and unexpected ways to really live up to those values. So reflecting back over the last year, boy, so much happened. Started off with a bang when January 6th, with a mob of 2,000 people attacked our Capitol building. Reflecting back over the last year, the now almost unimaginable number of almost 900,000 Americans lost to COVID. To brighter things, such as the joy of seeing architects Billy Chen and Hazel Ruth Edwards appointed to the Commission for Fine Arts Board. First time a female chair in 111 years. So we're reminded that the crucial role that architecture, and in particular architects, play in our democracy and our public life. So here are some highlights from the Executive Committee over the last year. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Climate action. We continue to uphold our accountability as agents of change to champion several crucial initiatives that are moving the needle for people and planet. We're motivated to do everything we can as leaders in the AEC industry to address energy and carbon and accelerate this pivot to the future. So we did connect with Lindsay Falaska of the DC Building Innovation Hub. That was really exciting for our board. And our advocacy committee has been hard at work in an effort to engage with council so the district can be an early adopter of as-of-right use of mass timber for building construction up to the maximum building height. So on that subject, I hope that you will join us on February 24th for a collaborative workshop with our friends from the George Mason University Center for Real Estate Entrepreneurship for an update about design, technology, and legislation that's shaping this growing mass timber market in the DC metro region and beyond. Next slide. Being agents of change for justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion also continues to be a priority for XCOM, for our board of directors, and the chapter at large. In April, we came together with DC NOMA to support our Asian American and Pacific Islander colleagues and friends to call for a stop to Asian hate. And that was, of course, in response to the brutal rise of hate crimes during the COVID-19 pandemic. We engaged each other in a crucial conversation about having allies and the urgency to move from self-awareness to empathy and to anti-racism. Those thoughts continue to loom large, of course, for our whole nation and our city. And this summer, many of us gathered in Black Lives Matter Plaza on 16th Street to celebrate Juneteenth becoming a new federal holiday, just a year after the terrible tragedies that befell Breonna Taylor in Louisville and George Floyd in Minneapolis, events that shook the whole world. The bright spot for me is that BLM Plaza is now a permanent addition to the public realm of our city, and that screams aloud what we stand for. So please be assured that we are committed to advancing the transformation of our chapter, both in terms of representation and diversity in leadership in the board of directors, and concerted efforts to make the chapter a more inclusive, welcoming, and supportive professional community for all Washingtonians. Next slide, please. Last but not least, we focused our energy as agents of positive change for the future of the practice and place in the district. So as you know, the board continues to champion DC statehood, and we convened several online forums, including provocative webinars in June and July. And while the appetite of Congress seems to have quieted on this subject, we have not. So we hope to continue advocating for this important change. With an eye toward the intersection of the city and the federal interest, the board took up NCPC's request to help them look at the stranded land between the Lincoln Memorial and the Kennedy Center. And working with the extraordinary talent of Perkins Eastman Urban Designers, developed a compelling vision of reconnection, regeneration, and revitalization, which we hope will establish a blueprint for some serious and exciting changes. And then finally, in May, after 5 years of contentious debate, members of the DC Council unanimously approved changes to the comprehensive plan for the city. This policy document will pave the way toward proposed zoning changes that will empower delivery of a more equitable and affordable housing and transit-oriented land use. So we think that this is a huge step towards Mayor Bowser's challenge to add 36,000 new homes by 2025 across all wards of the city, and we applaud the city for moving in a positive direction. AIADC is here to support that momentum. Thank you, Mary.
Thanks. Sinclair, do we have any questions?
Not as of yet, but as a reminder to attendees, you can put any questions that you have in that Q&A box.
Great. So Will, I think you're up for the treasurer's report.
Great. Thank you so much, Mary. If we could advance to the next slide, please. So in 2021, we had a major increase in our income. This came as a result of two things. One, a recurring rental from the Capital City Church, and also from SOM, which has been temporarily using the DAC as its office address while it builds out its new space near Farragut Square. We also saw an increase in communication income, which was lucky because it really offset a decline in education income. We also received forgiveness for the PPP loan, which is a program from the SBA, and that now tracks as income on the balance sheet. In terms of expenses, we did have to pay full rent this year. Previously, it had been abated a bit during the onset of COVID, but we do have a lower staff, and so staff costs are lower. There has been a higher cost in communications, and we really feel like that this is warranted because it's really important to engage. It was important to engage in 2021 with our audience, but it's also going to be important to engage with them into moving into 2022. Next slide, please. Overall, it's a very quick summary of the year. It's not great, but it's also, given the ups and downs of 2021, we feel like we're in a stable position. Next slide, please. In 2022, our budget includes a CFO consultant, which is an outside group, which is going to help us organize our finances better. They have a specialty in working with nonprofits. Perhaps one of the bigger missions is to change the vision of Design DC to broaden its appeal and make it interesting to a wider audience. We will also not have any travel for leadership, and our design juries will remain virtual to help control costs on that front. And with that, I think I conclude the treasurer's report and turn it back over to Mary.
Great, thanks, Will. Sinclair, any questions for Will?
Nope, not as of yet.
Okay, then we'll move on to my report. And just like everywhere else, the Great Resignation has landed at the chapter. So we had some longtime staff leave: Laura Hedrick, our events manager; Catherine Adams, our development director; and Rachel, our kids program manager. This is allowing us to reorganize our efforts and our staff in a way that will be of greater support to the chapter. We've also been in the office for 2 days every week since July. So on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we are in the office. Next slide. And while we have a smaller staff, member engagement is at a all-time high. We have 20 committees this year. Yes, you heard me right, 20 committees. And because of that, we've created a new staff position for someone to help support the committees, which you'll learn about in just a moment. Next slide. We're very happy that we were able to do some in-person events sliding in between Delta and Omicron. We were able to do the Cocktails and Conversation, the Chapter Awards program, the Fall Design Fete, and also Construction. We were able to, a lot of these are foundation programs, but they are so much of interest to our members that I wanted to bring these up in this report. It was lovely to be able to have some FaceTime with folks, and we hope that as things settle out in the next couple of months, we'll be able to do much more. Next slide. And what we need to work on, as Will pointed out, is we need to figure out how to make Design DC work, how to make remote learning work a little bit better, and this is also included with our kids programs, and that's something that we are really going to work on this year. I think everyone's just plain old tired of Zoom, but we've got to figure out some new ways to help create an education that's really engaging. And the people that are going to help me do that, that's your cue to switch the slides, Sinclair. This is the staff of AIA. Portia Amofa is our events assistant. Portia helps out with some of our long-term events. Katie Spencer is our programs director, working tirelessly to bring you the most cutting-edge education we can provide. Scott Clowney is our exhibitions and program director, and his public programs are just are really great and expanding, and I hope you are logging into some of those. Next slide. And Sherry Williams has taken over as events manager. And of course, we have our longtime deputy director, Sinclair Erdwin, who will be with us only for less than a week now. She is going off to a great adventure, backpacking through South America. So we are so thankful she has been with us, and we wish her all the well. But while Sinclair is leaving, Lily has joined us, and Lily is what we're calling an operations coordinator, but she's really the committee wrangler and will be there to support the committees and help them do the great work that they do. So I think that's the last slide for me. Does anybody have any questions about the?
Yeah, we have one great question here. So who is the best person to contact regarding architecture in the schools?
That would be me.
Okay.
Yeah, the default is always me. If you can't figure out who to contact, just contact me. That's fine. So if and we are going to try and do architecture in the schools sometime in March. So whoever asked that question, just shoot me an email right now, and we can talk about that. But that, I think, concludes the official part of our of what we need to talk about. And I think the next thing is Will and I doing the induction into the AIADC Corporate Hall of Fame. We have 5 members today to induct, and the first member, if you want to switch the slide, is the Clark Construction Group, and we're applauding, and hopefully you may hear applause in the background. Yay, Clark Construction Group. And I think Katrina is somewhere in the audience there and would like to say a few words.
Yes, thank you so much, Mary and team. Really, really appreciate and sincerely appreciate this incredibly meaningful recognition. At Clark, we very much deeply value the rich relationships that we've cultivated with this community of architectural design firms and professionals. And we know acutely that our successes in the delivery of our portion of work and our portfolio of work it's always been and will continue to be heightened by the close collaborations in which we operate across the wide spectrum of all market sectors within the architecture industry. So we're very humbled to be able to continue to share a builder's perspective and work with our design partners in this community to create a more resilient future together. And we look forward to that. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Katrina. All right, Will, you're up.
Our next inductee is Gutierrez Studios. Kevin Weston is here to say a few words. Kevin?
Hey, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I mean, we are just absolutely floored that we were not only considered, but actually achieved this great honor. I couldn't help but immediately look back on how do we get to where we are, and obviously 10 or actually 11 to 12 years ago, that we were even requested to do the design build for the DAC space was such a great honor to us even at that moment. And it was wonderful to work with everybody. And then we immediately became an integrated member into that community, even getting offered I taught a brief class there for a period of time after that. And that enabled me to meet so many other members of the community. Since then, that has continued to just spiral into more and more projects, more designers. And I guess the long story short, being a relatively uneloquent primate, it changed the trajectory of our small company and really integrated ourselves and enabled us to do all kinds of other projects. I guess what I'm getting is that we're accepting this honor in conjunction with the AIA District Architectural Center because we couldn't have gotten it without you. So we're very appreciative, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody involved and all the continued support we've had.
We'd like to offer up a round of applause for Gutierrez Studios.
Yay. Okay, our next inductee is MCLA Lighting, Architectural Lighting. And the slide should probably advance if we can do. There we go. And I think Marina's on the line. Great.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. And on behalf of everybody at MCLA Architectural Lighting Design, we're very honored to be recognized and surprised to be recognized from the AIA DC. MCLA has focused on lighting design in Washington, DC for over 25 years, and it's because of you and all your colleagues, continue to challenge us with outstanding designs and inspire us to be the best that we can be. We are also very grateful to know that lighting design is recognized as such a valued part of your architectural community. So thank you very much.
Great. Round of applause. Will?
Our next inductee, next slide, please, is Potomac Valley Brick. And I do believe Kirk Taylor might be in the audience. I don't know if he's available or is interested to say a few words, but Kirk?
I think we actually have several people from Potomac Valley Brick. So Alan Richardson, I put you on the spot, but let me know if there's somebody else that should allow to speak.
Well, I can say a few words. It's just a pleasure for Potomac Valley Brick to even be considered for this. I want to thank Mary and all of the people that we've worked with over all of these years at DC AIA, and without you all working with us and us working with you all, we certainly wouldn't be able to have advanced like we have over the years. And it certainly is a pleasure to be part of the association and have relationships with the architectural firms that we do and continue to supply the materials that we supply over the years. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Great, thank you. And our final inductee for 2022 is Vectorworks. Do we have someone from Vectorworks who's going to speak?
I wasn't able to, oh, there you are. I will send you the panelist invite now and go ahead and say a few words.
Can you switch the slide? Okay.
Hello there. Thank you so much. I'll be brief. I just want to say thank you all for considering us and inducting us. We are really appreciative of all the opportunities we have with you, and we look forward to continuing to work with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Will?
So I just wanted to say on behalf of the board of directors, we were so honored and so grateful to have the consistent support of corporate affiliates. It really does mean a tremendous amount to ourselves and to the chapter. Before we do a big round of applause, I do have to include a shameless plug. We are doing a corporate thank you or an affiliate thank you event called Blackjack at the DAC. It's a combination fundraiser for the Washington Architectural Foundation, as well as a way to interact with our great group of affiliates and have a little bit of fun at the expense of the DAC. So look to see everyone there. I think it's March 24th. It'll be coming in email, but just want to say let's have a big round of applause for all of our inductees and all of our affiliates today. Thank you.
All righty. Thanks, Will, and thank you to our corporate affiliate members who mean so much to our work. And before we get into committee reports, we are graced by the presence of our 2022 president, Douglas Palladino. Douglas, what would you like to say?
Oh, Lord. Graced by the presence. Look, I'm humbled and honored to follow Chris Takis in this role. I don't know how this happened, but and no little child growing up ever said to his parents, I want to be a president of an AIA chapter when I grow up. But I am sincerely thrilled to be partnering with all the people on the board to think about this here. And I want to also thank our members and our affiliates. They're really the lifeblood of the AIA. And the committees are the heart. And it's really a big thank you to all of you for all that you've done. You know, I think the AIA is really about the spark that happens when members get together and exchange knowledge and information between them. And I see it as the board's role is to try to make that spark happen as frequently and as frictionlessly as possible. We met last week to talk about how to do that, how better we can do that this coming year and to refocus the goals. And a lot of good ideas came out of the discussion. However, I also believe that good ideas are the enemy of better ideas. And so I'll be listening carefully to you guys today to see if you have any ideas. And, you know, we feel as though that the continuing collaboration with George Mason and extending it, a richer collaboration with Northern Virginia chapter AIA, Potomac Valley chapter, and DC NOMA. And then particularly important to me is a greater collaboration with the 5 schools of architecture in the area. But I want to reach out, don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have some other thoughts and ideas that can help us make that spark happen. And again, for our corporate affiliates, inductees, you know, it is a great honor, and we are so grateful for everything you do for us in the past and going forward in the future. Back to you, Mary.
Sorry, I'm muted. You'd think I'd know better. So we are going to move on to our committee reports, and Sinclair is going to drive that for us. And I'm going to hold the dreaded cell phone that will go off after 2 minutes. Everyone lives in fear of my 2-minute warning, but let's try to keep the reports brief, and because we want to get to all of them. So Sinclair, I'll let you take it from here.
Great. Well, I will actually just go ahead and turn it over to Allison for Excel to start us off. And I'm not sure where Allison went.
Maybe skip her and come back after she reconnects.
Hi, sorry, I'm here. Morning or afternoon, everyone. Excited to talk to you briefly about Excel, which was formerly known as the Leadership Committee. And we have rebranded this year with a little bit more focus to do, as our title says, coach and empower future leaders of the chapter. Next slide. So the vision of the committee was actually born out of a chapter goal and discussions, on the board that were led by our past president, Rob Holtzbach, to try and advocate to offer opportunities for leadership and mentorship for architects in the middle of their careers and beyond, to be honest. The feeling was that we have a lot of programming for emerging leaders, but wanted to try and offer more opportunities for those that have advanced beyond emerging. So we have 3 primary goals: to create leadership training and mentorship opportunities, as mentioned, that might not be available within the traditional firm structure, empowering our architects to further develop their skills and expand their resources. And then, of course, we curate and offer 2 specific programs. So our second goal really is to curate the DAC Leadership Series, which is the primary program of the committee, based on current trends and chapter-driven requested content. And then this year, we're hoping to host a yearly 360 mentoring program in partnership with the 2 other local chapters of AI Nova and AI Potomac Valley. Next slide. So as I mentioned, our 2 primary programs. This year, the theme of the DAC Leadership Series will be equitable and diverse leadership. So we will be hosting a call for proposals here in the next few coming weeks, looking for submissions for content for that in an effort to try and speak specifically to leadership content and training for encouraging equitable and diverse leadership. And then, as mentioned, later in this year, we're also working on a partnership program, that 360 mentoring opportunity, which will allow participants the option to both mentor up and down in partnership with AI Nova and AI Potomac Valley. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Allison. Next up, we have the AADU, and I believe we have Andy on to talk about that.
Hey, can you hear me? Okay. Hello, everyone. Yeah. My name is Andy, and I'm the chair of Asian American Designers Union, or AADU. AADU is a committee that aims to gather Asian American architects and designers, motivate our professional development, and promote collaborations among all different kinds of groups. Next. This is our leadership for 2022. Due to the ongoing pandemic, we are actually experiencing a big change in terms of the leadership team. While there's some good news as well, we are now having a branch team under AIA Seattle as well. Though it's hard to co-host events together, we are sharing our resources and experiences with them. Next slide. Went through the challenge in 2021. We are super proud of what we did. This is our Designing Asia series lecture. We did an Iranian architecture theme lecture last year. In the new year, we will keep doing this series and show more about the beauty of Asian architectures, Zen garden, Asian, Chinese buildings, Indian architectures, you name it. Next slides. We created a forum named Perspectives. We held 2 chapters last year. We asked the people from different backgrounds to join and discuss architecture and design from different perspectives. We are preparing the 3rd chapter right now. Next, we held a design competition called Cultural Amplifier with UDDC. It's a meaningful competition, not only because it requires excellent design strategies, but also the cultural intention behind it is really important. We will definitely explore more competitions like this in the new year. Next. Therefore, in 2022, we believe that we have a lot more to do. We will hold more than 5 online and offline events, more than 5 virtual or in-person committee meetings for further discuss the topics we're interested in. Next slides. Our first committee meeting in 2022 will happen on February 17th. Don't hesitate to contact us and attend the Zoom meeting. We're looking for a way to bring people together and create a equal, open, and available platform. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Andy. I believe our next committee is Advocacy, and Brian is here to speak a little bit about that.
Great, thanks, Sinclair. We can go ahead and advance to the next slide. And I've included our mission, which you can find on our committee, but we can go to the next slide because I want to go ahead and jump into our initiatives for 2022. The first of which is Christopher's already referenced earlier, is advocacy for early adoption of the Mass Timber Code, essentially adopting portions of the IBC 2021 to allow architects to fully realize the potential of this construction type today. We'll also supplement this effort with events and tours throughout the year. And go to the next slide. In collaboration and support of the Resiliency and Disaster Relief Committee, we're also advocating for adoption of Good Samaritan laws for architects to allow SAP-trained architects to offer support in response to disasters. Next slide. In 2022, we will resume our ANC training sessions, which helps community members better understand the key considerations and implications of new projects that come up for discussion in their neighborhoods. Next slide. And per our mission, we will support AIA national initiatives such as the Blueprint for Better and Citizen Architect campaigns through programming in Q1 and Q2. Next slide. And as you can see, collaboration is an important aim of our committee. So we will be providing an opportunity to meet with AIDC's other committees to see how we can best provide support and advocacy for what matters to each of you. And next slide. And then finally, as Christopher also referenced, we will continue to advocate for DC statehood and are contemplating how we can even take this message to Chicago later this year. Next slide. If you'd like to learn more, discuss certain initiatives or join our committee, please reach out to me or drop in on one of our monthly meetings. Next slide. And that's it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And actually, I believe that our chair of the Resiliency and Disaster Relief Committee couldn't make it today. So thank you, Brian, for pulling full duty here and letting us know a little bit about that committee as well.
Sure, no problem. And I don't think we had any slides for this one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll just give a brief overview. So AIDC's Resiliency and Disaster Relief Committee is one of our newest committees, and it's sort of the Gemini of AIA committees, joining these unrelated topics that at the national level are actually represented by two different committees, the Disaster Assistance Committee and the Resiliency and Adaptation Advisory Group. As such, our committee is focused on two prongs: response to disasters through our efforts to train architects through the safety assessment program and support relief efforts through deployment in times of need, and prevention through resources and educational resiliency and adaptive design. In support of the first prong, disaster relief, as I just mentioned, we are already at work on our first initiative in conjunction with the Advocacy Committee, advocating for adoption of Good Samaritan laws in DC, which will extend protections to architects and professional engineers providing response services. DC is one of only 11 states or territories where these protections are not already in place. Such protections will further allow us to organize a response network of local architects among other local and regional chapters. In support of the second prong, resiliency, we plan to provide resources and educational programming, including discussions on regional impacts of climate change, DC's plan for resiliency, and through support of AI and national initiatives such as the Blueprint for Better campaign and Resilience and Adaptation Certificate Series. If you're interested in learning more about our committee or would like to join, please visit our committee page on aidc.com/committees. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Brian. Next up, we have the Building Enclosure Council. Chris and Ashley.
Hi, well, great. Everyone can hear me. Hi, my name is Ashley Delgado. Chris DeRosa is on the line as well. The Building Enclosure Committee is pretty much self-explanatory. We are a network of professionals who share common interests in new and existing building enclosures and the science related to them. Next slide, please. I'm gonna get into our 2022 goals, and I should have done a better job in separating new goals versus ongoing goals. So one of our ongoing goals is to increase our outreach to those beyond BEC DC. That's partnering events with related industry and BEC committees such as the IBEC, double IBEC, I should say, International Institute of Building Enclosure Consultants, the RAIN Association in North America, as well as BEC committees in Baltimore, Boston, Houston, and so forth. We are continuing our virtual conference and presentation on sustainability with multidisciplinary panels, and we're also doing introductory level enclosure and presentation for those newer to the industry. We also have in-person tours, such as the Rockwool manufacturers in May of this year. We are still trying to establish a date for that, but it will be in May. And another one of our ongoing goals is to increase our membership, have roundtable discussions, virtual tours, questions at the end of presentations. And one of our new goals is have a quarterly newsletter. Chris, did I miss anything?
No, actually, I think you did a great job. Just reemphasize what you've already said, all about like reaching out throughout AIA, all the different committees. We'd love to collaborate, work with you, and really just share the knowledge, advancement of building enclosure for not just new buildings, but also existing buildings. There's exciting updates in the building code and the Clean Energy Act that we're really excited that should have a big impact on building enclosure and building enclosure technology.
Okay, great. Thanks. And the second slide is basically to reinforce that introductory level presentations such as expansion joint basics and roofing membranes. Back in January. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Miss Mary. So that's just the second slide is to reinforce the first one. And we had a good presentation back in January about the Grenfell Tower, and it goes into how the building enclosure was really important. So my time is up. Thank you, Miss Mary. Just let us know. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ashley and Chris. Our next committee is the Committee on Architecture for Education. Jeff?
Thank you. Glad to be here. So our mission is to celebrate architecture for education. Next slide. We had a good year last year. We had about five major events, and I'll show a couple slides from them. Next slide. We started out with a survey of our member group and looked at what people were interested in talking about and getting together. Next slide. We did a consortium event with Baltimore and Northern Virginia. This was very successful. Next slide. We had a signature speaker, Dr. Hutchings from Alexandria Public Schools, who had developed a really good program on equity in the Alexandria system. Next slide. We brought together a panel of speakers from various public schools around the region who talked about their respective commitments to improving the quality and equity in education. Next slide. Dr. Hutchins made an interesting comparison between the pandemic and the racial struggles that we've gone through, and talked about a dual pandemic. It was very inspired, and we're looking to leverage the experience of pandemic and how it influences education. Next slide. So we went on and we had a group conversation about how we would come out of the pandemic, and it's still going on and it's been stretched out. Next slide. We are excited about how educational spaces can become something different than boxes, and the pandemic has forced us into the idea of educational landscapes, and that's been an exciting thing to be looking into. Next slide. We try to build our year around a fall event. We call it the Back to School Fall Social, where we invite our member groups to talk 5 minutes about educational designs. Next slide. So we get really good presentations, and what was interesting this year is that there was a lot of net zero school projects. Next slide. And really fun rethinking of what schools can be and what education can be. Next slide. Next slide. So we took some of the work that we did as a group, and some of the members of our group went to NOMA, and we talked about how pandemics might influence and change the way we think about educational settings. Next slide. And a theme that grew out of that was the challenge of technology and human touch and how that is interfaced, and I think that's running through some of our thinking in terms of the programming for this coming year. Next slide. So we've got a good group of events coming up. We are looking to publish a presentation by one of our members on neuroscience and architecture. We're going to tour a handful of schools. We're looking for a May event focused on technology and teaching. We'll hold our annual back to school event in September. And then we're working on a consortium event with Baltimore and Northern Virginia again. And this year we're going to focus on alternative K-14 educational models, and including school business collaborations in school settings. We're looking for an October event with Howard University, maybe get the students to present back to us. And then we're working on a games-based event to occur sometime in December to wrap up the year. Next slide. I'm working on the committee together with Nia Malu, who's a professor at Howard University, and then we have a really good group of committee members. We're always recruiting, and we're looking for people who want to create an event and help support it. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Jeff. Next up, we have CRAN, and Janet Bloomberg is here to speak about that.
Hi, everybody. So we are the Custom Residential Architects Network. That's who CRAN is. Next. The custom, we represent architects who do custom residential work, different styles, different firm sizes, different sizes of work. Okay, next. But that doesn't mean that we're all doing residential work. We do commercial work, we do multifamily. We are primarily single family focused. Next. But not all of our committee is made up of architects. We have real estate agents, photographers, suppliers. So it's really great. We represent a large array of the custom residential area and expertise. Next. We are tri-chapter. So we have AIA DC, AIA Potomac Valley, and AIA Northern Virginia. We are a network. Next. And we do a variety of home tours, lectures, roundtables, panel discussions. We also provide support to each other on the committee and to other members of our group. Next. This year, 2022, is about reconnection. That's our theme. We're focusing on programs that provide social interaction and reconnection to each other after 2 years of almost full isolation. We're doing a garden tour. We don't have exact dates. We're working that out now, but a garden tour with a focus on landscape and architecture together. A photo picnic, which should be a very fun social event at a local park. A spring party, which replaces our holiday party, which unfortunately was canceled. At an art gallery, we're going to do that. And then a Pechakucha style discussion of wall sections and building science issues with a building science expert. We each group, each chapter does 3 programs per year. So we try to do 1 every month. Next. And just from last year, we did this is one that Potomac Valley did on custom residential design and post-COVID issues. Next. And in DC, we did a renovating old buildings with Horizon, which was a very successful. I think we had almost 200 people come to that. Next. And finally, we are part of a national network. So there are national CRAN events all over the country, and we often attend them virtually at this point, and some people are going in person. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Janet. Next up, we have Design Excellence. Michael.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to kind of speak with you again this year. We had a very interesting 2021 with the change in leadership in our committee. Louis Getz stepped down after many years of working with us on the committee, and we greatly appreciate everything that he's done to date and really kind of setting forward and kind of setting a standard for what this committee is supposed to be doing. You know, our mission is to recognize, educate, and promote design excellence to the chapter members and to our community at large. And I'm really excited that William Hendricks, who is a well-known, but part of the committee for quite some time, but is a talented architect, award-winning architect, will be serving as our other co-chair. And then we have our secretary, James Jesmer, who is also a very passionate architect with AECOM, who will be working with us. And really, I feel very happy that we're kind of forming this great team of leading our committee. Next slide. As we have done in the past, we're going to continue to support the ICDC Instagram photography competition, which we've been doing. We plan on continuing that as we did in 2021, and we'll continue to recognize, as we did in 21, the member contribution to design excellence through our chapter awards, Unbuilt Awards, and Washingtonian Residential Awards. We'll continue to work with the executive staff and director, as we have in the past, to really kind of build a stronger kind of chapter awards roundtable and awards programs. And I always will be supporting the education goals of the community. For 2022, next slide. The biggest thing that we've been doing, and I think it's important to really touch on that, is our effort in really reaching out to nationally recognized and award-winning architects, interior designer, urban planners, and academics to serve as our jury for the chapter awards. Our committee spends quite a bit of time working with Mary and the staff and really establishing a high level of critique, and jurors who will come in and step in and really evaluate the chapter and the award submissions that really represents, as best we can, the chapter's design goals for the projects that we serve. We'll continue to support the framework goals as we have. We're always kind of looking at how we can incorporate the framework goals within the chapter awards and trying to make it as easy as possible for the submission and the award entries to really focus on those framework goals, as we know that's an important goal within the DAC itself. We'll continue to work with the executive director, as we have, and really kind of maintaining and managing that jury list. And then again, we just talked about the ICDC photography contest and really trying to bring that forward so we can have a really interesting jury roundtable as we have in the past. One of the things that we're going to continue to work on is our collaboration with other committees and supporting and participating in their presentations and or sponsoring continuing education presentations, which falls into supporting the overall goal of the chapter to promote education in architecture. Our committee meets the second Tuesday of each month. We look forward to anybody joining our committee. We had our meeting is at 6 p.m. The biggest thing that we're also trying to change this year is we need to get back and start meeting in person. We know that with the last couple of years, it's been very hard, and I think we're all suffering from sort of this virtual meeting fatigue. And we've been working with Mary. We're trying to figure out a way where we can have a consistent place for us to meet so we can encourage more people to come and join us. And we look forward to some new things changing in the coming year about where we're going to meet and how we can create and be more accessible to people attending our meeting. Just wanted to kind of end on the last slide, which is a sort of a composition of the winners that we've had throughout the course of the year with respect to the Washingtonian Awards, the chapter awards, and also some of our unbuilt winners that are kind of at the bottom of the slide. So I think it really represents, kind of a strong kind of component of the practice that happens here in Washington, D.C. in our region, and how our committee is just supporting excellence in design. Thank you.
Okay, just want to pop in here and remind people that you have 2 minutes. So let's try to remember the 2 minutes. Go ahead, Sinclair.
All right, next up, we have the Emerging Architects Committee. Joseph?
All right, thanks everyone. So I'll try to keep to the 2 minutes. The Emerging Architects Committee Our mission is to promote education, leadership development, and community involvement among emerging architects, associate AIA members, and architects licensed 10 years or less. We encourage the next generation of architects to start leading our community by heading committees, organizing events, participating in workshops, and attending or events. The EAC has 4 main objectives, and that is to, 1, advocate for emerging architects, 2, provoke and talk about the future of the profession, 3, mentor the next generation of architects, and 4, perform outreach to other AIA members, associate disciplines, and the community. I think as a committee, we're pretty well known for having a pretty large and robust calendar of events. But for 2022, we want to really hone in on those 4 major objectives. And so we're restructuring our major events to fit under those 4 categories. So for this year, we want to sort of do 1 event per major objective. So for a mentorship objective, in March, we plan to have an event around mentorship and goal setting, sort of career mapping. And then we'll have later in the year our annual thesis showcase, which is under the umbrella of outreach. Then we really want to have a licensure celebration and under the objective of sort of advocating on behalf of architects, sort of, which would include a keynote on licensure, potentially the importance of licensure and how that helps the emerging architect. And then we want to wrap up the year with our 4th event under the objective of provoke, which is an architecture uncensored event, which is a pretty popular event that we tend to be known for. And that event is where emerging architects can talk about questions that are a little bit harder to discuss in the work environment. And it encourages intergenerational dialogue to find new and creative solutions through lively debates and thought-provoking questions. So for this year, our main objective is sort of refocusing our normally robust calendar to 4 major events and potentially a few tours, and just really focus on our 4 major objectives for the year. The Emerging Architects Committee meets the 2nd Wednesday of every month on Zoom. So our next meeting is next week, Wednesday, and if you're interested in joining us, you can find contact information on our AIA DC EAC webpage. You can contact us there for the Zoom link. So, thanks, Sinclair.
All right, thanks so much, Joseph. Next up, we have the Equity Committee by Wheels, Mika and Marissa.
Can you guys hear me? Yep. All right.
Yeah.
So Equity Committee by Wheels. Next slide. So it started as a founding that was a response to the 2017 AIA Women's Leadership Summit, and it was mainly to amplify the voices of both the distinguished and rising leaders, mostly women at the time. Since then, and we've grown for a couple of years, working on programming and outreach that is around storytelling and advocacy and talking about equitable pipeline development. But we wanted to expand to be a larger understanding of larger representation of the field and acknowledge a lack of diversity that goes beyond women to include minority professionals and include that in our visibility and amplification. Next slide. So what we really focus on is taking stock of our existing committee members and really understanding that they're not just a representative of their race, identity, or profession, but understanding the intersectionality of each of them and how do we best support them moving forward. Next. So this year, our team is myself, Marissa Nimsik, and Mika Narasayan. We are the co-chairs, and I bring this up. We have a great group of women right now who are helping to lead this, and we are also looking for 2 open positions for our treasurer and our events coordinator. So please let us know if you're interested in joining. Next. So in terms of mission and goals, we typically hold about 3 what we call signature events a year. So Mika will get into more discussion about that. We also hold smaller speakeasy events, which are more of amplification of an individual story and connection to some of their design and personal work. We also focus on donating all of our proceeds from our different events to the WAF Scholarship and Design Like a Girl program. And we're also looking for more opportunities to volunteer with the community and expand that reach of visibility and building some pipeline. Next. So one of the things that we host every month is our general body meeting, and these can range from more of a dialogue conversation about an article or a different artifact, Q&A with an individual, and storytelling.
Yeah, and so as Marissa mentioned, we have 3 main events this year. The first one is a brand new event actually that we want to host in the spring, and that's going to be an immigration related event. Our hope is to raise awareness to issues surrounding immigration and architecture and how it affects things like hiring, salary, retention, and then in addition to provide resources to help guide our friends facing immigration issues in architecture. Our next event, which you can find on the next slide, is the same as last year. We had a very successful annual Pride event. We think it's going to be an even better one this year. We're going to have, similar to our wheeled format, it'll be a storytelling event with diverse industry leaders sharing their stories of empowerment and resilience. Next slide. And so our final event, which is our signature wheeled event, is really a storytelling about leaders in our industry and how they overcame career dynamics, and really sharing to the next generation of leaders so that they can learn tools to help them equip to overcome their own career obstacles. So we really hope that everyone can tune in to our signature wheeled event in the fall. In addition to our 3 main events, next slide, we do hope to continue our collaboration with DC NOMA, La Idea, and AADU on the Our Forum, Our Impact series. But in addition to that, next slide, we also do hope to collaborate with smaller speakeasy events, and this will be with different firms so that they can have an industry leader featured, as well as our, we would get an opportunity to tour some of their projects and learn a little bit more about their work culture. So next slide.
And you have about 30 seconds left.
Thank you, Mary. So we just want you to join us. We think it's going to be a really great year, and we're very excited.
All right, thank you so much. Our next committee is the Fellows Committee. Janet?
Thank you, Sinclair. And a big public thank you for all your years of your great support for the Fellows Committee. Good afternoon, and I'm going to begin with the next slide with a quick refresh on fellowship. This is from the AIA website, that AIA Fellows are recognized with the AIA's highest membership honor for their exceptional work and contributions to architecture and society in exemplifying architectural excellence. Only 3% of the AIA members have this distinction. Next slide, please. I'll give you a short update on statistics and important dates. We have 149 fellows in the chapter, 26 are women. We are working on improving diversity, and since 2010, the committee has supported the elevation of 78 new fellows, including 14 women. Last October, the chapter endorsed the nominations of 6 candidates, and we are anticipating the announcement of the new 2022 fellows in the next 2 weeks. The call for 2023 chapter nominations begins February 18th. It will be posted for 4 weeks in the AIADC newsflash. The nominations will be due on March 18th, so look for the announcement for more details. Next slide. Our 2022 committee plans include continuing to facilitate the fellowship nomination process in the chapter, where the committee nominates, assesses, and recommends candidates for chapter approval. We have an 8-month workshop program that meets monthly with candidates in roundtable and small group discussions. And this year we will again meet remotely on Zoom. The program is serious, rigorous, and comparatively successful by reputation. The signature of our committee is that we assign fellows to serve as one-on-one coaches to each candidate going through the nomination process. We will continue to advance screening and assessment of potential candidates. We will support and coordinate with the emerging architects and the Fellows Public Program Committee. And we are continuing the WFAIA. It's the Women's Fellowship Awareness Program. It's been ongoing since 2018. It is strategic to increasing diversity. And the WFAIA works with associate AIA women who are pursuing licensure or recently licensed, and 10-year licensed AIA women, which is the minimum time requirement for fellowship nominations. The WFAIA serves as mentors to these candidates. So please watch for the call for nominations in the news flash on February 18th and contact me with any questions if you have them before then. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Janet. And that leads us nicely into our next committee, the Fellows Public Programs Committee. Ed?
Good afternoon. This is Ed Gavreau. I am standing in for Jim Volchi, who had a conflict and could not make this. And as you can see, we have a paucity of slides, but I can at least go really quickly through the summary that he sent me. Right now, I mean, we are moving along, but I will confess that there's a lot more that we can do right now. Our goals align pretty much with the overall goals of the College of Fellows, which is to heighten the level of engagement within the 150 fellows that we have within DC, support the overall fellows program, but also broaden within our chapter, support the value of adding value for our members, as well as foster a community that we can support. As far as for this year, we are starting to get with, we are hoping to hold our spring program in April at the Cosmos Club on April 22nd. That will honor the new fellows, which will be announced in the next 2 weeks, as well as the fellows from the 2020 and 2021 classes. That planning is underway. We are looking later this year to host a program with a DC chapter fellow for a topic of interest. We hope to do it live at DAC, but we will obviously have to deal with whatever COVID protocols are going. The scholarship fund, we want to re-engage the Fellows Kickstart fundraising for the endowment fund. We'll also talk about in terms of linking up with WAF in terms of that effort. The mentoring question that you had all brought up, I certainly want to engage with Allison and her committee in terms of what you're doing for mentorship. I think we can probably get a lot of synergy between those two groups and be able to move forward. We are meeting monthly. We are doing it virtually. It's on the second Thursday of the month. We certainly welcome all current fellows to please join in the process. Also, we do continue to work with Janet and support the programs to raise up the next generation of fellows within both our chapter as well as the profession at large. And subject to any questions you've got, that's all I've got for the group. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ed. Our next committee is LIDEA. Patricia?
Hi, happy almost Friday, everyone. LIDEA stands for Latin American Interior Designers, Engineers, and Architects, and it's of course also in Spanish for the idea. Our mission is to become the leading collective of Latin American design professionals in the Washington, D.C. area by creating opportunities for interaction among members, fostering professional development, and engaging with the community. Next, please. Our committee is based on 3 pillars: connect, inspire, and give. That's connect with other Latin American design professionals in the DC area and nationwide, inspire professionals while promoting leadership, and give our time and talents back to the community. Next, please. Last year, we hosted several events, all virtual. We had fantastic guest speakers, partnered with other AIADC committees to support new events, hosted Tatiana Bilbao as our Maestra de Arquitectura, and engaged with a new nonprofit housing app. Next. This year, once again, our plan is to focus on quality over quantity while being responsive to our current situation. So our calendar includes events and activities such as educational design bike tours around the city with a local architect, our annual networking event with Porcela Nosa, participating with Common Good City Farms, a Washington Architectural Foundation program, and painting murals at local schools in partnership with Hands-On DC. Lastly, we are planning to continue with Maestros de Arquitectura, our signature lecture series created to recognize renowned Latin American architects for their professional accomplishments and personal journeys, such as Hernan Diaz Alonso, Juan Herrero, and Tatiana Bilbao. Next, we meet every first Tuesday of the month, and our meetings are open, so everyone is invited. If you're interested in joining us, please email us. The email is right there, laideadc@gmail.com, and we can share the Zoom link or the location depending on where we are. And if you want to learn more about us, please visit us at laideadc.com and connect with us in social media. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. Our next committee is Operations. Amy?
Hi, yeah, thanks, Sinclair. The OPP committee is a relatively new committee created in 2021 where operations professionals in the architecture and design community in DC share ideas, resources, and lessons learned. During COVID, for example, it was incredibly helpful to hear how other firms were navigating through the pandemic and planned to reopen. The idea behind the committee is that we're better and stronger together. And I don't know if you have to click the next slide. Yeah. Operations professionals support, shape, and model the culture in each firm. So helping to create the forward-thinking environment needed for architects to build those great cities is the idea behind it. Next slide. Our 2022 plan is to grow the committee. It's only our second year. We're brainstorming and building on best practices for staff retention, firm culture, recruiting, and onboarding. We continue to discuss current challenges. Often we're all facing the same challenges. The Great Resignation, for instance, it's inspired us to do a deep dive into staff retention and firm culture and how it's changing. Collaborate with other AIA DC committees. I'm a firm believer of cross-pollination, so feel free to get in touch with me. And the next slide. So it's our first year doing events. We're pretty excited about it. So our first event is in May, and it'll be a focus group on onboarding best practices. And hopefully we'd like to find a way to share this with the community. That's another plan for 2022, not just within the committee, but the community at large. What do architects do? What do architects do? A panel discussion. So this will be a great event for admin staff at firms, new admin staff, entry-level employees, college students. It's kind of a deep dive into what y'all do, kind of architectural language. Understanding financial statements, great for up-and-coming firm leaders, bookkeepers, and even some firm owners. And the next slide is just to have your people call my people. There's a lot of, like I said, great cross-pollination to do. Have your admin staff reach out to us. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you, Sinclair. Thanks, Mary.
All right, thank you so much, Amy.
Yeah.
Next committee is the Public Architects Committee. Mark?
Thank you, Sinclair. My name is Mark Shara. I'm an architect with the National Park Service here in Washington, D.C. The Public Architects Committee, as it says on the screen, our goals are to provide a forum for architects working as staff at local, state, and federal agencies and nonprofits to share ideas, experiences, and best practices among one another, and to share with the AIA DC chapter and the general public the work, accomplishments, and issues facing design professionals in the public sector. We're in the process of developing a few presentations for the upcoming year. Next, please. I've been talking with the office oversee building at the State Department on their design excellence program, and hopefully a presentation of some recently completed embassies. Next, please. Likewise, the Kennedy Center, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary, talking with people on the staff to do a presentation on the design and construction of the Kennedy Center, and then look at what their current issues are going forward. Next, please. I'm also talking with staff at the Smithsonian Institution about the current renovations undergoing at the Hirshhorn Museum, in particular the exterior wall panel replacement project. Next, please. And we're hoping to put together a panel discussion of members of various federal agencies on how the different agencies are approaching the problem of resilience in the face of climate change. And with that, I will conclude, and thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Our next committee is the Small Firms Committee. Ron and Will.
Thank you, Sinclair. Good afternoon. My name is Ron Schneck, along with Will Tez. I co-chair the Small Firm Exchange Committee created last year. I am also DC's representative for the AIA National Knowledge Community Small Firm Exchange, or SFX. In short, the primary mission of both AIA National SFX, as well as our committee, is to advance the mutual interests of architects practicing in small firms. At the national level, this primarily translates into curating resources for small firms. At the local level, our primary mission is threefold, and that is to further create regionally specific resources, and to provide additional content in the way of our events, which we do quarterly, and to provide a community for local architects as well as other related disciplines practicing in small firms. Next slide, please. This is a sort of summary of our mission, and I tried to summarize it as best as possible. Next slide, please. I just wanted to thank the leadership, this leadership committee right now. As I mentioned, myself and Will Tez and the other participating leadership, thank you. Next slide, please. These were the events of last year. As mentioned, we sort of created SFX committee in May. We did have 3 events. The first one was a sort of panelist for specifically focusing on small firms, and it confirmed that there were a lot of small firms interested in getting further involved. So we kept going and had 2 more successful events. Next slide, please. And the events for this year, we're doing one every quarter. First one coming up in March is how to start and sustain your own firm. 2 is getting published, and 3 is social media and marketing a small firm. Those 3 will be getting panelists who sort of are experts in those areas, and then we're working on a sort of speed mentoring with other SFX committees in different cities. Next slide, please. This is just showing the logos of participating firms. Next slide. And welcome. Anyone who wants to join, we're welcome to take anyone at any time. And we basically meet every 3rd Tuesday of every month, and we have a mix of Zoom meetings. We're going to try to do more in person, as well as site tours of member projects. I just wanted to quickly thank Will for putting together this slide and for the board's continued support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And last but not least, we have the Urban Design Committee. Janki?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So the Urban Design Committee explores the big ideas about cities through lectures, panel discussions, and site tours. Next slide. So I, along with Kumi, are very excited to take on the role of co-chair for this year. Along with us, we have Temi as our communication outreach coordinator and Cal Elmo as our treasurer. We also have support from Sakshi, our our previous year co-chair as well as Nishu Sinha, our board liaison. And we are very excited to host event for the coming year. Next slide. Every year we have like a theme that the whole events are based on. This year, we are exploring the theme of resilient city, and I'm very excited that a lot of committees are also doing that. So looking for a lot of collaboration. Next slide. Throughout the year, we have different events planned that we collaborate with different committees. Last year, we collaborated with the Emerging Architect Committee as well as the AADU Committee for hosting competition. Next slide. Every year, we launch a journal which talks about the themes that we have for each year, as well as it's basically a document which has all the amazing articles and documentation of the events that we had throughout the year, which is launched in January, the beginning of the year. This is all available on our committee web page on the IIA website. Next, please. As mentioned by Andy before, we hosted the design competition this year based on the theme of culture and its importance in inclusion and diversity. Along with the competition, we have the second event, which is based on the competition topic, but more like a panel discussion, which is supposed to be hosted on March. Next, please. Before COVID, we also had film screening, and we plan, if we are able to meet in person, we also plan to revive that event, which was also one of the most attended events before COVID. Next, please. We also organize open houses. Last year, we had virtual open house, which we hosted along with the technology committee. And it was pretty exciting to meet people virtually. This year also, we plan to do more like in-house, like in-person open house. Next, please. And along with all these events that we plan, every meeting, we try to invite a guest speaker who lead a discussion on the theme that we have this year. So if you're interested to be that speaker, to like lead the discussion, please reach out to us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And that was our final committee. I do want to underline that all of these committees' contact info is on our website. So if you have had your interest spiked at any time today, you can reach out to them to inquire about joining. And with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Mary to have any final thoughts.
Yeah, thank you to all of you, wonderful committees and all the great work you're doing. Thanks to everyone who participated today. We're really happy to have so many people on Zoom with us today and learning about what the chapter's doing. And please don't be shy to contact us. You can always reach out to us. Our emails are on the website. And again, thank you all for joining us and have a great day.